Good. 7 o'clock. So let's start. Yes, so very lovely to see you all as usual. And thank you very much for giving up the time to practice together. Even though we're all in our houses in all kinds of places, I find there is such a strong sense of shared practice in these sessions and is very, very supportive. And I look forward to it, which I find interesting because, we've been doing this every week for 6 months. And I haven't, I don't think, oh, why am I still doing this? I always think, oh, good, I'm going to be with those lovely people again. And I'm going to have half an hour for myself as well at the end of the day of grounding, settling, resting, recentering, and so on. And it's just such a good thing to do. So I'll say what I've been doing today because it's relevant to the session tonight. I'm writing a course for a new app that is being developed called mindfulness.com. And the course is called Finding Inner Peace. So I've been reflecting, well, what are the ways that we can find more inner peace? And I've done a couple of recordings today. And if any of you are involved in creative endeavors out there, then you might be reassured to know that last week, 2 weeks ago I was supposed to do it, then last week I was supposed to do it, and my procrastination kept on being interrupted. So I couldn't even get a head of steam of procrastination up. And I've learned that if I'm doing creative work, that all the kind of faffing about is part of the creative process. And anyway, I was getting a little bit anxious about it. So today I have finally sat down and got on with it. Very, very satisfying. But what I've been thinking about and talking about is body awareness, breath awareness, and present moment awareness as being a really, really good way of anchoring the mind. And excuse me. Making life more livable, if we can just be with life as it's happening, rather than being swept away by ideas of the past or the future, then it's very enriching. And if life is really, really challenging, then breaking it down to moments can be really helpful, because when we've got challenge, we can feel all this sort of fear and anxiety about future moments of challenge. But we ever only actually experience that challenge right now in the present. And the future moments won't be exactly the same anyway. So that's quite interesting, I think. And if we haven't got challenged, then simply being present is a much more vivid, pleasurable way of living, because we're actually awake to life as it's happening, rather than our minds being somewhere else. And body and breath awareness is a really good way to also experience present moment awareness, because the only time we can feel the body directly or feel our breath directly is now. A past breath is a memory, and a future breath is just an idea. So I've been really reflecting on this, that body and breath awareness is a really fantastic kind of foundation to take with us everywhere. And one of the reasons being that it does root us in the present, which is, more bearable if life is difficult, and more enriching for all of us. But what is this present moment? That's what I've been mulling, because it can sound very narrow, just this tiny little moment of time in the great sort of expanse of past and future, as if it's just a little kind of snippet. But what happens, this is very mysterious and intriguing. What happens experientially is when we are able to be more present to our body, our thoughts, our emotions right now, then rather than the present moment being narrow, it becomes big and vast, even, and even timeless. It's like we come into the present as if we're in time, but then something happens where we can release into a much more timeless perspective. So it's very mysterious. I don't really understand it, but I do have a bit of a taste of it. So I thought we'd have a go at that tonight. We'll do a body practice, body awareness practice, breath awareness, be in the present, and see if we can have a little taste of what happens when we land here and now, and how rather than being tight and narrow, it paradoxically becomes vast and spacious. Paradoxically, because sometimes we want the whole expanse of time, and the present feels just very narrow. But actually, the whole expanse of time is just a whole load of thoughts, because it's an idea. The only experience is now. So by coming to the present, then something happens to our perception of time, or can happen to our perception of time, and it kind of blooms into something more timeless. So I've got a really beautiful quote from Dennis Potter, which I'm just going to read out, and then we'll move into the practice. Well, actually, I've got two quotes. Maybe I'll start off with this other one. This one's from Viktor Frankl, who was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist, who was also a Holocaust survivor. And he wrote a really extraordinary book called Man's Search for Meaning. And one of the things he says is, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. So that space is in the present. We have a stimulus, sense impression, a thought that's present, and then there's this tiny little opportunity we have, the choice we have. There's a space where we can then choose our response. And he's saying in that response lies our growth and our freedom, which is very, very central to what the Buddha saw as well. That moment of choice, that we can only exercise that choice if we're present, and we can catch that space between stimulus and response. Okay, so this one is from Dennis Potter, which is really beautiful. So he was dying of cancer. It was a very famous interview with Melvyn Bragg, who's another British journalist. Dennis Potter was a playwright, I think, and an author. And I remember seeing the interview, and he was sitting there with a hip flask full of morphine, just swigging the morphine while he talked, because he was quite near death, but he was very alive, and he was actually very funny. But what he said was this: the blossom is out in full now. It's a plum tree. It looks like apple blossom, but it's white. It's the whitest, frothiest, blossomest blossom that ever could be. And I can see it. Things are both more trivial than they ever were, and more important than they ever were. This is in relation to dying. And the difference between the trivial and the important doesn't seem to matter. But the nowness of everything is absolutely wondrous. The fact is, if you can see in the present tense, boy, do you see it. And boy, do you celebrate it. So I think that's really beautiful. The nowness of everything is absolutely wondrous. And the fact is, if you can see in the present tense, you really see it. See, using the language of seeing metaphorically here, it might be through your sound sense or taste sense, but to be totally present to experience. And it's wondrous. So let's take that spirit into the practice, spirit of curiosity, and seeing if we can be open to the possibility that the nowness of now could be absolutely wondrous, and this spaciousness that Viktor Frankl also talks about. Okay, so if we prepare our posture. Whether you're sitting, lying, you can do it standing, you can do it walking. It's completely up to you. And beginning to drop your awareness deep in the body. Let's feel the contact between the body and the surface we're resting upon. Whether we're sitting, whether we're lying, whether we're standing. Perhaps taking a few deeper breaths. And on the out breath, releasing, letting go down onto the chair, onto the floor, onto the bed. Feeling into those points of contact. The sensations might be intense, they might be dull, they might even be absent. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is that we are dropping our awareness down into the body. And let's allow awareness to pour down into the legs and the feet to help this sense of grounding, anchoring, rooting in the body, in the present. Feeling the shape of the legs, the contact with the floor. Feeling sensations in the legs. Or maybe being aware of absence of sensation. Seeing if we can allow this awareness to go all the way down to the toes. If we've got painful sensations, seeing if we can meet these with kindly awareness and resist the impulse of contracting, hardening against the pain. But just as the breath is flowing, seeing if we can let sensations flow. Allowing awareness to pour up into the whole abdomen and torso. The abdomen first of all, let's feel how breathing is showing up here. Swelling on the in-breath, subsiding on the out-breath. Can you let it be effortless? Allowing awareness to fill up into the chest. The ribs expanding, retracting, the lungs filling and emptying, breastbone rising and falling. And flowing into the whole back of the torso. First of all, the buttocks resting on the chair or the bed or the floor. If we're standing, just being aware of the buttocks, seeing if they can be soft. And allowing awareness to float up through the whole spine. The lower back, the middle back, the upper back, the shape of the spine and the breadth of the back. And feeling how breathing is showing up in the back of the body. I notice that my back feels like it's broadening on the in-breath, subsiding on the out-breath. And there's also a feeling of my whole back being massaged by breathing. And now being aware of the whole torso. And allowing the volume to expand in all directions on the in-breath, subside in all directions on the out-breath. And our awareness is riding that movement, resting inside that movement. Letting the breathing be effortless, flowing. And now allowing our awareness to come into the shoulders and then letting the arms fall away from the shoulders. Having the hands supported in the lap or on the floor, depending on our position. Seeing if we can give the arms and the hands to gravity and let the shoulders fall away from the midline of the body. Can you feel movement in the shoulders as an expression of breathing, an echo of breathing? Now allowing our awareness to flow up into the neck, the head and the face. Checking the angle of the head if we're sitting, checking that the head is poised on top of the neck. If we're lying down, giving the weight of the head up to the pillow, the cushion. And let's let the face be soft, the eyes soft, the mouth soft, the jaw soft. So the wind of the breath can flow in and out of the body with as little restriction and inhibition as possible. Now broadening awareness to be aware of the whole body. Whole body sitting here, lying here, standing here. Being aware of all the different sensations and the movements of breathing. And seeing if we can rest our awareness inside the body, inside breathing, inside sensation. So we're not contemplating an idea of the body, but we are inside the body, experiencing it directly. Let's cultivate a broad, open, receptive awareness. And let's see how many things can we become aware of in this moment, in this spacious moment of presence. Let's see if we can cultivate a sense of presence which is vast, open, multidimensional, even timeless. So the present moment becomes vast rather than tight and narrow. So I'm aware of many different sensations and movements of breathing. There's a quality of my breathing. It's the flow. I can feel other sensations in my body. Some of them are unpleasant, some of them are pleasant, some of them are very subtle. I'm aware of sounds, smells. Just seeing if we can have a quality of being awake to our experience as it happens. If you're very dominated by pain or discomfort or mental agitation, perhaps you could spend a bit of time noticing what in my experience is pleasant. There's always something we can find, maybe just a bit of softness somewhere in the body. And if you keep drifting off, then maybe you could imagine you're like an explorer in a new country, finding all kinds of new valleys, new landscapes. And you can find these within yourself right now. Can you make present moment awareness more interesting than your usual distractions? Looking for a sense of vividness, curiosity. Getting a sense of how present moment embodied awareness can cut through distractions, worries, fears, rumination. When we notice we're caught up in something, then without harsh judgment, we can choose to drop back into embodiment and presence. what's happening now. Letting go of what you think should be happening, be honest about what is happening, and in that awareness you have a choice. And you can choose to just simply come back to presence, experiencing the body and the breathing directly, and you are present. Bringing the weight of the body to the foreground of awareness. So we're staying present, embodied, but we're particularly aware of stability and weight, groundedness. Just reflecting for a few moments how we could take any learning from this practice into our daily life. Anything we noticed. When we're ready, we can begin to move a little bit. And again, seeing if we can stay vividly aware of movement. The feelings, the sensations, keeping the breath soft. And opening our eyes when we're ready, bringing the practice to a close. Or the formal practice to a close, but keeping the presence flowing. So it's nearly 7:30. Just got a couple of minutes, or 1 minute in fact. I'd be very interested to know if you had a sense of, by coming to the present time opening, by coming closer than to what's actually happening right now, then a sense of maybe a little bit more spaciousness within. So perhaps you could just write something if you wanted to in the chat box. And it's certainly an area that is rich for reflection. Yeah, how do we go out of sort of tight, narrow perspective to something more timeless by being present? Yes, Patricia's saying yes, very mysterious. Mark, I had the sense of the springs of my time unwinding. Wow, interesting. Olivia, felt more comfortable in my body. Peter, yes, the present became something else. Meg, a sense of fulfillment. And again, I'm just reading these out because we might have people here with visual impairment. And a chance to step back from a busy mind and more aware of my body. Yeah, that's interesting. We can't be in a busy mind and in the body at the same time. So coming into the body interrupts the busy mind. Where are we? Bridget, I felt a lovely open spaciousness. Really needed the unraveling it brought. Interesting. Gail, sense of arriving and now. Natalie, a sense of a peaceful mind which felt calming physically and mentally. Jocelyn, thanks. That was helpful, so helpful, and beautiful quotes, especially the second one meant so much. Thank you. Sophia, noticing softness in my throat and enjoying lessening of pain. It's interesting. Stefano, I felt in between something that I didn't catch. Well, that's mysterious. Yeah, lovely. Judith, a focusing and an opening out. That's interesting, you see, because we would normally think focus is narrowing. But what I'm trying to suggest is by focusing, the product becomes opening out if we do the focus in the right kind of way. Karen, so calm and peaceful. Jaya, felt more grounded than I had been all day. Francesca, I felt more able to give myself permission to pause and have a moment to become present. Perhaps I can take this into my workplace. Classes of 32 students 6 times a day. Wow. Yes, you can certainly take this into your workplace, and that sounds quite intense. Good luck. But yeah, of course, take it into your workplace. Helen, need practice, but love the idea of narrow and tight or wide and expansive relating to time. Yeah, interesting. Viola, thank you. Feel really grounded. Bronwyn, sense of inner flow. Helen, I lose a sense of scale of my body. It feels vast. And that's Nikki. Alan, love the sense of presence as vast. Good. Oh, that's really good because that was a little bit experimental on my part. It's great having these Tuesday nights because I can sort of stretch myself a bit as well and explore things with you all. So thank you for being such willing accomplices in the time travel. Wonderful. Excellent. So what we could do is, 2 things to say first. One, I'll put those quotes in the community of practice for those of you who are members of the community of practice. Those of you who aren't, if you wanted to join at Breathworks, we've now got this fantastic Facebook that is not Facebook community of where we have people share all kinds of things. And so I'll put the poems there. And Ollie's just put the link if you want to join in the chat box. Thanks, Ollie. And tomorrow night, I'm going to be doing something I've not done before, which is a live meditation on the Insight Timer platform. It's free. I think you need to sign up to the app, but it doesn't cost anything to listen to the live session. And if I was together, I'd have the link to put in the chat, but I'm afraid that's beyond me right now. So I think it's on the Facebook, on the Breathworks Facebook page. Oh my goodness, Ollie, you're amazing. There is a lot of code there. Fantastic. Yeah, and I'd love you to come because it's, I've not done it before. It might all go horribly wrong, but you could be there to say, I was there at that very first session Vidyamala did that went so badly wrong. Or it might go really well, or it might be something in the middle of those 2 things. Look, he's now put in a cleaner link. Brilliant. So yeah, I'd love to have you there if you want to join. It's 9 till 9:30 tomorrow night. And it would be really nice to have your support. Meanwhile, I'll see you all next Tuesday. Yes, that should be fine. Okay, do you want to unmute yourselves and say goodbye? That's always nice as well. If you want to, or if you think I really, really don't want that, I just want to go and be quiet, that's also fine.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
You have to unmute yourselves though, because we
Thanks, Vidyamala. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
Bye.
waving. That's nice.
Bye, everyone.